Welcome to Singapore, a tiny island that dreams in skyscrapers. A country so clean it feels like a PowerPoint presentation, animated, timed, and perfectly formatted. It's the place where the trains arrive on time, the streets are spotless, and the people. They walk like they're all part of one perfectly synchronized national choreography. But look closer, behind the glass and glitter, behind those billion-dollar gardens that never see a fallen leaf, you'll start to wonder, is this a city or is it a theme park pretending to be one? Singapore wants to be a global city, and oh, it's trying hard. Every inch of this island screams progress. But the irony, the harder it tries to look global, the more it feels artificially perfect. Like a business class lounge that never closes, calm, luxurious, but somehow soulless. Here, rules are the true national religion. Discipline isn't just a value, it's a subscription service. You don't break the rules, you simply upgrade your obedience plan. Even freedom feels sponsored, neat, efficient, and always pre-approved. The country brands itself as a gateway to Asia, but you can't help noticing the gateway looks more like a checkpoint. Every visitor, every local, every thought, scanned, sorted, sanitized. You can almost hear the unspoken motto humming under the skyline: be global, but behave. And that's the paradox. Singapore markets freedom and modernity while managing its people like a luxury product line. So tonight, we're pulling back the glass curtain on the island that mastered globalization by putting it under surveillance. Singapore loves efficiency the way Paris loves romance. Everything, from the train schedule to your chewing gum habits, is optimized. The MRT glides like a perfectly trained butler, elevators apologize for the delay, and even your trash bin can out-politeness a Japanese hotel concierge. It's a society that worships function over friction. No drama, no delay, no dissent. The dream of every control freak who ever looked at a messy democracy and said, what if we just deleted the messy part? And it works, almost too well. You can cross an entire city without hearing a car horn, see crime rates that make Scandinavia look dangerous, and enjoy a tax rate that makes bankers drool. But perfection, my friends, comes at a cost. Character. When every process is automated, every street sterilized, and every citizen trained in the art of quiet obedience, you start to wonder, is this a city or a luxury operating system? Step into a hawker center and you'll feel it. The one place where chaos still dares to breathe. Plastic stools, chilly heat, and gossip louder than any fine dining chatter. Yet even there, the tables have QR codes, and your auntie's stall probably has a government hygiene grade higher than your doctor's clinic. Singapore's brilliance is that it conquered chaos, then sold it back as culture. Its vibrancy is engineered, from gardens by the bay to its perfectly curated multiculturalism. It's diversity with a permit, innovation with a ceiling, and freedom that comes pre-approved by policy. The rest of the world burns in political drama, economic crises, and existential angst. Singapore just adjusts its air conditioning, but behind that perfect climate control lies a quiet question nobody dares to ask. If nothing ever breaks, how do people grow? Because sometimes the price of peace is the death of personality, and Singapore has perfected both. Every great utopia needs an unspoken rule. Don't ask how it works, just enjoy that it does. In Singapore, that rule is practically a religion. You can walk at 3 a.m. with a gold watch and never fear a thing. But that comfort doesn't come from kindness. It comes from cameras, thousands of them, watching, recording, analyzing. Every streetlight has an IQ higher than your neighbor's dog. Every train station sees more faces in a day than your therapist does in a lifetime. Here, security isn't invisible, it's the architecture. From biometric checkpoints to digital IDs that track your breakfast preferences, Singapore has turned governance into a science experiment. And the lab rats, well, They're smiling because the cage is 5-star. There's a saying, Singaporeans don't break rules. They queue for permission to bend them. It's discipline masquerading as destiny. You don't rebel, you submit, gracefully, with an e-payment receipt. When the government tells you to stay home, you don't protest. You disinfect your hands, refresh grab food, and post "Doa stay safe SG." That's the genius and the trap. The system rewards compliance so elegantly that freedom feels inconvenient. Why argue when the trains are on time, the taxes are low, and the hospitals don't collapse? But perfection breeds dependency, and dependency breeds fragility. Ask any taxi driver. He'll tell you Singapore used to be tough, raw, ambitious. Now it's efficient, rich, and a little afraid. Afraid to lose the order that defines it. Afraid that real freedom might look messy. Because true global cities, London, New York, even chaotic Bangkok, thrive on imperfection. Singapore polishes its flaws until they vanish, and in doing so, it polishes away its edge. The irony, in trying to control everything, Singapore accidentally became the most predictable country on earth, a place so safe, even spontaneity needs a security clearance. Welcome to paradise. Surveillance optional, but strongly recommended. Singapore loves to call itself global, but scratch the surface, and you'll find something strangely provincial, a cosmopolitan city that still can't decide what it wants to be when it grows up. English speaking, yes. Westernized, definitely. But truly global, that's the illusion. Walk through Orchard Road and you'll see Gucci, Dior, and an ocean of sameness. The same stores, the same playlists, the same air-conditioned perfection as Dubai or Seoul. Yet behind the English accents and international schools, there's a quiet fear of standing out. Because in Singapore, conformity isn't peer pressure. It's infrastructure. Dress too loud, speak too freely, or challenge too directly, and you'll feel the invisible line humming beneath your feet. This is a nation that celebrates diversity, but quietly edits individuality. Even creativity has a management plan. The National Arts Council gives grants, just not to artists who question the system. And that's the paradox. Singapore wants to be global, but it doesn't trust the chaos that globalization brings. It wants the profits of capitalism, the prestige of the West, but the control of Confucian order. The result? A culture so curated that even rebellion feels pre-approved. Ask a young Singaporean what they want. They'll tell you a good salary, a stable job, maybe migrate to Australia. Ask them why, and they'll whisper, because Singapore is too small. That's the heartbreak of perfection. It breeds competence, not confidence. The nation trained its citizens to succeed, not to imagine. Even language mirrors this paradox. English is official, but emotion still thinks in dialect. Mandarin is encouraged, but real warmth is in Singlish, that unapologetically local, gloriously messy code the government once tried to erase. Singapore dreams of being understood by the world, yet its most authentic voice was nearly silenced by its own ambition. Global city, perhaps, but more like a showroom version of one. Flawless lighting, spotless presentation, and zero personality allowed. Because being global isn't about how many airports connect to you, it's about how many ideas can breathe inside you. Cleanliness in Singapore isn't just a standard, it's a state religion. Dust is treason. Spitting is heresy. Even the pigeons look unemployed. From the spotless airport floors to the public toilets that smell like citrus enlightenment, everything in Singapore screams purity. But somewhere along the way, clean stopped being about hygiene and became about control. You see, the city's obsession with order goes far beyond mopping and sanitizing. It's a moral compass, a belief that cleanliness equals goodness and mess equals moral decay. It's why graffiti is illegal, but advertising isn't. Why chewing gum can land you in trouble, but consumerism gets a red carpet welcome. Singapore doesn't just clean streets, It cleans narratives. No litter, no protests, no scandal left unsterilized. The government mastered what the West still struggles with, a society so polished that even dissent looks like a design flaw. But that polish comes at a price. When everything is sanitized, from the sidewalks to the soul, people stop asking messy questions. They start mistaking compliance for virtue, and that's when hygiene quietly mutates into ideology. Visit a hawker center again and you'll notice it. Plastic trays labeled "Return here," signs warning you not to leave tissue packs unattended, cameras ensuring everyone behaves. It's not chaos, it's choreography, a national ballet of obedience. And yet, ironically, the more Singapore cleans, the more sterile it becomes, not just physically, but emotionally. Where's the spontaneity, the imperfections that make cities feel alive? Tokyo hides its flaws, Bangkok celebrates them, Singapore removes them altogether and wonders why tourists say it feels like an airport terminal with citizenship. The truth is, a city without dirt isn't clean. It's lifeless. Cleanliness should liberate, not domesticate. But in Singapore, the sparkle blinds you until you realize it's reflecting your own restraint. Because when you make hygiene your identity, you don't just remove germs, you disinfect the human spirit. If wealth were wisdom, Singapore would be the philosopher king of Asia. But as it turns out, money can buy everything, except the one thing Singapore quietly lacks: meaning. Let's be honest, the city works like a luxury clock, precise, glittering, and soullessly efficient. GDP is the new gospel, and economic miracle is the national fairy tale. From the CPF system to the ERP gantries that charge you for existing, the island has monetized every breath between sunrise and sleep. Singapore doesn't just make money, it is money. It's the world's most successful corporation pretending to be a country. Every citizen is a shareholder, every minister a CEO, and every policy a business plan. Even the housing board sounds like an investment portfolio. And yes, the numbers are dazzling. Highest home ownership rate in Asia, top-tier healthcare, record low corruption. But talk to its people, really talk, and you'll sense something missing. That quiet, existential hollowness that money doesn't fill. Because when your worth is measured in productivity, you eventually forget how to be without producing. Try asking a Singaporean what they do for fun. They'll say, "I go shopping." Ask them again, "No, really, what brings you joy?" They'll pause, then maybe whisper, "Travel, but not here." That's the paradox. A city with everything money can buy, where the richest form of escape is leaving. And the irony runs deeper. Singapore built its empire by importing foreign capital and exporting human capital. The country that trains the smartest minds ends up watching them migrate, because talent doesn't chase safety, it chases possibility. Singapore's problem isn't that it lacks ambition, it's that ambition replaced purpose. It wants to be the world's perfect city, but forgot that the world's greatest cities are imperfect on purpose. Because meaning isn't manufactured, it's discovered in the cracks. And in Singapore, the cracks have been sealed, perfectly, profitably, permanently. Every empire has its expiration date, even the spotless ones. And Singapore, for all its brilliance, may be entering the one thing it cannot regulate: entropy. You see, perfection doesn't age well. It's beautiful in youth, glossy, disciplined, invincible. But over time, that shine becomes suffocating. The younger generation is beginning to feel it. They grew up in the gleaming city their parents built, safe, rich, comfortable, and somehow completely uninspired. Ask a Gen Z Singaporean what they dream of. They don't say to build Singapore. They say to get out, to live somewhere with space, unpredictability, maybe even a little chaos, that forbidden spice their parents were taught to fear. The island's success story was built on survival. But survival breeds caution, and caution breeds stagnation. The same formula that saved Singapore in the 20th century could quietly trap it in the 21st. You can't innovate forever on fear of failure. Look at the global stage. Tech hubs thrive on mess. Art scenes thrive on rebellion. Even politics, in its dysfunction, creates room for reinvention. Singapore's immaculate efficiency, once its superpower, may now be its ceiling. And as the world grows more unpredictable, pandemics, wars, AI revolutions, the country's obsession with predictability starts to look less like wisdom and more like denial. The real danger isn't collapse. Singapore won't collapse. It's too smart, too structured, too cautious. The danger is decay, a slow cultural fading into a perfectly managed irrelevance, a place so efficient it forgets how to feel. In the end, the polished island may face its hardest truth, that being admired is not the same as being loved. Tourists will still marvel, investors will still trust. But when your people's dreams point outward, what's left to sustain the soul inward? Perhaps the future of Singapore isn't in becoming the next global city. Perhaps it's in remembering that even diamonds lose their sparkle when no one dares to touch them. Maybe that's the real paradox of Singapore, a nation that achieved everything and somehow still feels unfinished. It's the city that sells perfection but rents authenticity, that built prosperity without personality and order without warmth. It's what happens when a country becomes a brand, polished, premium, and permanently on display. The Singapore dream was never wrong. It was noble, even visionary, to rise from swamp to skyline in a single generation. But somewhere between the miracle and the maintenance, between Lee Kuan Yew's blueprint and the digital age's feedback loop, Singapore traded its soul for a performance review. It became the world's favorite airport lounge, beautiful, safe, convenient, and ultimately somewhere you pass through, not stay. A place where everyone is welcome, but no one truly belongs. The tragedy isn't that Singapore isn't global enough, it's that it became global too early, before it had the chance to be local long enough to understand what made it special. Because a global city isn't built on marble and money, it's built on contradictions, chaos, creativity, compassion, rebellion. Things you can't design into an urban plan or legislate into existence. But perhaps, just perhaps, the story isn't over. Maybe Singapore's next evolution won't be taller buildings or smarter infrastructure, but looser air. A little more room for mistakes, a little more tolerance for noise, a little more faith that people, not policies, make a city truly great. Because the most beautiful cities in the world don't shine, they breathe. And one day, when Singapore finally stops polishing, it might just start living. Singapore is what happens when a country wins the game and then forgets why it was playing. What do you think? Is Singapore a model for the future or proof that perfection is the enemy of humanity?